Happy Buckeye Friday, everyone. Welcome into the best damn pod in the land. I have Terry T here from College Football Stop. You guys have seen him a few times on our show, but thanks, Terry, for joining. And I always forget to do this, so tell everybody where they can find you, Twitter, other places, other shows, your regular spots.
Okay. Well, first, dude, thanks for having me on here, man.
Oh, yeah. I love having you on, man.
Always enjoy it. But you find me at CFB_stop on Twitter. And then always on Best Damn Media. Those are my guys over there, man. They always have me on at least once a week on the Buckeye Roast in the morning. Typically Tuesdays, but whatever, at least one day. And then always every single Wednesday, me and my guy Mike, we have our college football landscape show called The Fans Edge. Make sure you guys tune in there. Always a pretty good show. We get a little rowdy on there sometimes. So
you guys do a great job. Yeah, I enjoyed. I don't always get to catch it when you guys are doing it, but then like I'll catch it later on in a week. Or after my kids go to bed, you know, the dad life, man.
Yeah.
I live in the world of Bluey. I feel like, so
Hey,
yeah, it's all right. It's all right. That's where we are. So Terry, news, other than the game this weekend at Wrigley, a very funky situation broke yesterday, towards the evening. I know you know about it. We talked about it already. So the 1870 Society decided for some reason that they are going to partner with folks from that team up north. I have the graphic up here. Your initial reaction, thoughts?
believe it, Chad. I could not believe it, dude. I saw this and I immediately put it in my little Buckeye group chat.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this, dude? And then they had the audacity to a little bit later tweet out like, wow, people are having a negative response to this. And I'm just like, I actually responded back to them. I'm like, you put Jeremiah Smith on a graphic that is promoting Michigan's NIL. What did you think was going to happen?
Right.
Like, I couldn't believe this, man. What was your thoughts when you saw it?
So I will. This is twofold. Firstly, when Drew left the 1870 Society, I pulled my recurring donation and moved it to the foundation. If you go back, like way back when I used to host the Buckeye Blitz, I did a thing when Austin Ward dogged the foundation after Brian Schottenstein's birth or pregnancy announcement when CJ was getting ready to leave. You know what? I get it. I get why people were pissed. I understand. But at the same time, I think, Terry, you're enough of a rational person to know we both knew CJ Stroud was not coming back. That rookie contract as a top 10 NFL draft pick, we weren't going to be able to touch that in NIL. I don't know what world people were living in then, but that wasn't happening. Our NIL was a mess then. So what I did, I actually some time ago pulled my donation from 1870, moved it back. I put everything into the foundation now. So I'm a recurring donor with that besides, you know, my regular donations to Ohio State. But I was kind of speechless. I was kind of mad. I don't understand it. And from a fan standpoint, just not doing the show, but like as a fan, I don't want to do anything to help our rival at all. And then this is on the heels of all the stuff with Bryce Underwood and this $10 million offer. Why? Why would you do this? Why?
On the heels of 3 losses. It's like, like I think last year, I remember, and I could be wrong with whether it was last year or the year before that, but one of the years I remember them doing like some kind of like Fortnite event or something right before the game where they had like Ohio State and Michigan players playing with each other and stuff. I don't even like that, dude. I'm just like, listen, just let the rivalry be the rivalry. Like, if you want to play Fortnite and do NIL things with Rutgers, then okay. Or like, you want to do it with Penn State, like even that, like, okay, I can get, cool. Not this one. This is the one that you just don't do it with.
Yeah, bro, like what? Like who signed off on this and why and how? Oh, gosh, it's so frustrating. Whoever came up with this idea and then whoever signed off on this idea are not going to have a job in a week. I never want to see anybody lose their job.
They shouldn't.
But what, or maybe not be in the creative space anymore for that.
No,
but
for real.
So the foundation capitalizes on this, of course, because the 1870 Society for a while was the preferred, and I'll put that in air quotes, NIL
Yeah, right.
collective. So the the foundation within, I don't know, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, fires this tweet off on X that says, all your money's going to the foundation, only Ohio State student athletes. And so I've thought for a long time, and I want to get your opinion, Terry, because I think you have a really good insight on a lot of this. Having two collectives, I should show my DM sometime, because I was really out when we were doing that big fundraising in the spring, like out in front, like being like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
donate, hey, donate. You got $5, donate. We need it, we need it, we need it, we need it. And I was propping both collectives up, and everybody was asking, well, isn't the foundation only doing basketball and da 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 da? No, they're doing both. But so now I'm okay if the 1870 Society just withers and dies. Like we need to have one main collective anyway, instead of like, you take Jeremiah Smith and you take, you know, Bruce Thornton and like it would make it a whole lot simpler. What do you think? Like, where are you at with this, man?
I'm honestly like I don't really care if they go away,
Yeah.
as long as their money is actually going towards people. Like if maybe some people have relationships with the people who run it and they want to donate to them. Like if that's the case, let it be there. But
Okay.
I mean, they can't do this though, dude. Come on, they got to come up with better ideas than this because the foundation has been killing it with ideas.
Yeah.
They've been doing all kinds of events and all kinds of, the 50/50s and all that stuff at the stadium. And
Right.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think even like when me and Dan was going to the practices, I think that was some kind of NIL event, and I think it was all linked back to the foundation.
It was. Yeah, that was where
So
the tickets came from. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that. But I mean, I don't think 1870 needs to go away. If they're giving any players on the team money, then okay, like, that's fine. They still deserve that money. Now, I wouldn't mind maybe if they did some kind of merger. I mean, it's probably not going to
That's
happen
yeah.
because you see the foundation is like cooking them on the timeline, like,
Yeah.
hey, you guys screwed up and now we're going to take advantage of it. But which I love that, by the way. I love that from the foundation, dude.
Yeah.
That tweet is like, that's
That's
what the
gold,
internet is
man.
all about. That's exactly, that's engagement. That's more people that are going to see the foundation now because people are going to see that the foundation is, kind of picking fun at the other organization or whatever.
Yeah. And I know for a fact, a really good friend reached out to 1870, like, hey, what is this all about? And they just ignored them, just completely ignored them. Didn't
Jeez.
respond, nothing. And then uh, Eric, I hope you don't care. I messaged him to make sure it was okay if he's sent me a direct message about all of this, and he just said that basically he's tried to get in touch with them for months about an issue he's been having,
Mm-hmm.
and no response. So,
Yeah, see, it seems like it's just ran poorly over there. And
yeah,
we're honestly, as Ohio State fans, we're lucky to have the foundation
yeah,
because if you remember, like originally when NIL first started, even they were struggling too.
yep,
And I'm glad they got it together because now I feel like our NIL is just as good or better than everybody else in the country. So,
yeah.
um,
We're on the edge for sure. We're in the front, probably front 10, I would say.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're lucky that Brian and Cardale didn't just call it quits when everybody was dogging on them. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
frustrating for sure. And Ohio State, as I always say, we have like three tiers of Ohio State fans. There's guys like me and you and Juck, and like we're in the minutia of it all. Like you guys, you and Dan
Mm-hmm.
at the practices, like us crazy hardcore fans. And then there's the fans that like they love Ohio State, and they come to some of the games and they're involved with it sort of, but they're not into this minutia. And then there's the people that sit at home and catch a game every few weeks and see how they're doing and hope they win a championship. So there's those three levels of fans. I guess there's technically four, because then there's those crazies like the 1% that yell and are really loud about everything stupid. But
Right.
because we had talked on Tuesday, Jock and I talked about this Big Noon thing, and everybody was like all up in arms and angry at Big Noon and Fox, and then the vitriol has shifted, and now it's at our own collectives. So it's just funny, man. It's just funny. What is your thought about that? While I'm thinking about, what's your thought about this 6 straight Big Noon games to end the season? I know everybody's got an opinion about it.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, dude. It sucks for like recruiting. That's really what it is. Like, You can't tell me Indiana would not be a huge recruiting weekend if that was a 7 o'clock game. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like, obviously people want to come and see Michigan, but Michigan also stinks this year. So, I mean, how big of a recruiting game is that going to be? So, I mean, I do wish that they had a couple like mix ups in there. But at the same time, man, in terms of like the actual team perspective, I kind of agree with like Ryan Day and what the team has been saying. Like, it shouldn't matter, man. Let's go line it up anytime. Let's go. You know what I mean? And as a team, you got to bring your own juice. Like, I played sports when I was younger, like in high school. We didn't have a bunch of fans there, but we had juice. Like, we was ready to go. And I know it's different because it's big time college football, but like, I mean, you go to a Friday night football game and there's 50 people in the stands. Them teams are still going to be juiced up.
Yeah. So I agree with you. So we had youth football night a few weeks back at for the school my son plays for, and so it was free admission for the young kids. And they line all the youth tackle and all the youth flag, and the coach is up, and the team runs out through it, and it was a big deal for the little kids. All the high schoolers give them a high five, but they were juiced, man. They were juiced. Now they are a pretty good local football team too. So it's
Hey. Ohio State's a pretty good football team.
Yeah. I mean, so I agree with what you're saying. From that standpoint, I think what bothered me is on the heels of all this stuff about the big noon kickoffs. Jared Curtis, who decommitted from Georgia, wanted to come up for the Indiana game, and he won't be able to make it because it's at noon, or it would be very difficult to make it. And I know that. We were talking about trying, like, for me, I've traveled most of my young adult life all over the country doing what I do for work. And I know how hard it was to get flights home, especially on Friday afternoon from California, that were worth a darn to get back to Ohio. So I can only imagine trying to get one. Like, you could catch a red eye, but it would be really tough to get here for a noon game if you're a California kid. And I agree with that, like, that portion of it. Now the homer in me, the guy that is getting older, I enjoy noon games and I enjoy night games. I do not like 3:30 games because of our schedule with our kids and practices and games, and I feel like it just eats up your day. Like, for what we do, to try to like take notes, watch the game, grab stuff, like it really just eats into the heart of your day.
You take notes during the game?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I never thought to do that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
if
much.
you, I use my notes on my phone, but yeah, if you like, I was trying to think here. Yeah. So like, it'll look like this.
Right.
I talk into it, and then so if there's, I kind of go through like what happened on the first series, how it looked, what I thought, offense, defense, end of the first quarter, any big plays. Yeah. So I do. I'm that much of a nerd. And then
that's a good thing. Do I like it?
Yeah. And I know a lot of people ask too, like I'll usually do a rewatch or do an all 22 review, depending on like the game, like how, like Purdue, I got through like halftime and I was like, all right. And I fast forward to the last about 8 minutes of the game, so I could see, the Peyton Pierces, those guys of the world. Yeah. So yeah. All right, man. So I wanted to ask you about this because I feel like maybe my take's different, but the type of schedule coming up after November 30th for Ryan Day. So November 30th, you have the Michigan game. December 4th is early signing day. December 7th, the Big Ten championship game. December 14th. I'm not sure how much this will impact Ohio State this year, but it's the Heisman ceremony. And then the 20th is the first playoff game. You want to talk about running a gambit, man. Holy cow.
Yeah. And I think the worst part about that is that it's surrounded by like the biggest games that you have to play in the year. Like if these were just not like big time elimination games, it probably wouldn't be such a big deal. I mean, also like Ryan Day makes a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, like you make that kind of money, you're going to be expected to do stuff like this. But it is kind of an issue with it being surrounding the big games that Ohio State has to play. Like, I mean, you look, Ryan Day will probably, in theory, if someone made it to the Heisman ceremony, then right after the Michigan game, he's going to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
with recruiting stuff, and then you got the Big Ten championship game. Obviously, you got to go travel to that too, and then I was just reading off the things you got here.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It is a busy schedule for that
Yeah.
little period of time. Now, imagine they probably get a little break after that. Or I mean, they would continue with the playoffs, and then once their season's over, then they would get a little break.
Yeah, I just think it's a lot because of the proximity between the game and
Mm-hmm.
then early signing day. And normally last year I think we had like 12 days maybe. And so if you're working a flip or somebody flips late, you don't want that to happen, but there's certainly some smoke
There is.
around TJ Alford right now.
I hate that.
Not feeling real good. I was feeling really good up until about a week ago. I do not feel as good right now. I mean, things can always change on a dime. Miami drops another
Mm-hmm.
game, drops out of the playoff picture. But it's also tough that some of those Florida recruits, man. But you look at that, it's challenging. So speaking of flip watch, of course Hayes Fawcett and his wanting his clickbait material drops that it's silly season and it's flip season and there's all these names. Who's on your wish list, man, for Ohio State to flip to Ohio State? I threw a couple names on our notes, but is there anybody you're watching
Mm-hmm.
for specifically?
Okay. Honestly, I haven't paid a ton of attention to recruiting right now because I'm so locked in on the season.
Okay.
Now I do want to still see. I do still want to see Ohio State look to bring in like another wide receiver, maybe. And I know that that's kind of crazy because we all got receivers and we have a couple in the class already. But I still want to see Heartline get one of those like big time receivers in this class.
Mm.
And I know that there is some smoke with Quincy Porter too. I just saw on the timeline. I think he was just at Penn State this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem like they're kind of excited about him. Like they potentially have a chance to get him. So I wouldn't mind seeing us go in and get, like I said, like a Vernell Brown, something like that. Go in and look to try to flip a guy like that. And then other than that, I'm looking more towards like the defense. Obviously, I'd love to see us bring in a couple more defensive guys. But here, you seem like you have more names in mind. Like I think you've probably been following recruiting a little more than I have recently.
Yeah.
So let me hear what you got.
Well, that's my niche too. Like that's why I got into doing the podcast. Was I chase, like I've already started my 2026 board. Juck and I went over it a couple weeks ago. So,
Juck loves stuff like that too.
Yeah,
Dude.
he and I get into the weeds, man. Yeah, so I think Ohio State for people we have a real shot at. I think we have a real shot at getting Turbo Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Alabama commit. Like there's a real pull there. I would like. He's the kind of kid that we just haven't had in a while, probably since Dontre Wilson. I would say something like that. That's the kind of kid he reminds me of. He's just different, just a difference maker. And then I am not all the way out on us still having a last minute pitch to Micah DeBose. That channel remains open. Everybody I've talked to said he's still responsive. There's still conversation. If Alabama would lose another game, or like Ohio State could figure out a way to get him on campus for the Michigan game, I think there's a real shot that he ends up in the class. I think
he's coming. I think he's coming for the Michigan game.
Yeah.
I heard that.
There were some rumors around it. I haven't been able to confirm it, but he's one that I've been paying attention to. And then a sleepy one, like you're on the wide receiver train. So one for you to watch would be Jerome Miles.
I forgot about him, dude.
Yeah.
When I was just talking to you, that's the other one that I was trying to think about.
Yeah.
Jerome Miles, he's committed to USC, right?
Right. So there's some. It wouldn't shock me if Brian Hartline still has that is still having conversations, and then with all the decommitments at USC, the rough season they're having, I can't say that he would definitely come to Ohio State because I know that there was a lot of draw for Utah as well. And the word around was that he kind of wanted to stay on the West Coast or like out West. So, but of the big ones that you're talking about, Vernell Brown, with them saying that they're staying with Billy Napier, all my intel, everybody I've talked to said that, especially with him being a legacy, it would be unusual for him to do that. It's not. There's not a lot of momentum for that. So I just continuing to watch that, continuing to pay attention
Yeah.
to it. But those would be the three that I'm looking at. And Ohio State has not quit, looking at and talking to Dorian Brew. Now, I don't think Brew will end up in this class. The only way I would see that happening is if Naeem Offord would flip, like then I think dominoes start to fall other areas. But for
I
right
hope he
now,
stays. I hope Naeem stays in the class, man.
I do too. I feel good about Offord right now. We'll see how the season wraps up, but I feel good right now. Not great, but good. So yeah, those would. But my main two really like that. If you could add something to this class that I feel like, and you're not subtracting anything, like so, not having to like jump in on a linebacker late because Offord flips or something. Turbo Rogers would be one on my wish list, and Micah DeBose would be number one on my wish list, and then number two would be Turbo Rogers. And then if you could find a way to flip a defensive end late, because I feel like with Edric Houston sliding down and then Dom Kirks, I think he ends up sliding down. I think he's just going to end up being too big to be on the edge. He's about the same size as Jack Sawyer right now, so I just feel like he may end up sliding inside too. I have some concerns there about what we have on the edge, because anyways, we'll save that for another show. But those are the things that I'm looking at if I was like cherry picking.
Speaking of edge, listen, I think that if you're Ohio State, I don't care how much like you feel like you're out of it. You need to give at least one more big time effort to get Justin Hill. Right, I feel like you have to, and they're playing the jack position now. I know that some of that was like a positional thing. Maybe if they actually play it more throughout the rest of the season, they already moved Edric inside. So moving Edric Houston inside is a sign that they're going to be using the jack position in the future. Edric Houston would have been like your typical Larry Johnson, 4 down front, defensive end, 275, 280 pounds, whatever. And, just the mold that Larry Johnson wants. But they moved him inside. I don't know. I think that's a sign that we're going to be seeing that jack position. And if that's the case, I think you give at least one more like big time push for Justin Hill. I mean, it's a hometown kid.
Yeah. I'll be careful how I put this out there. The information that I have regarding Justin Hill and TJ Alford, the reason they were looking at Alabama and Miami is because they believe that allows them to showcase their athletic ability and talent as a linebacker more so than the scheme in the front that Ohio State plays. So that what you're saying would help a lot if we do start to utilize that. It might spin the trajectory the other direction. I have a hard time seeing them flipping him just because unless this is going to be, we are 100% like committed to this and this is the way we're doing it going forward. And if they can commit to that, sure. If we see it again in at the Northwestern game for more than 4 snaps, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to believe that they will do that. You know what I mean? Like, right. Jim Knowles told us in the beginning of the year that we're not using it, and then now we've just barely seen it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, one of our regular viewers asked me to put out my Ohio 2026 wish list as of today, as of this week. So I dropped it in our notes, and you can tell me like where you. And this is in no particular order, but like. For me, it starts with defensive back and offensive line. So I'm all in on Rock Hill. Give me Rock Hill. Please give me Rock Hill. I want him in this class. Maxwell Riley, Sam Greer, Adam Guthrie, Will Conroy, and then Victor Singleton. I like Braden Fogel, the tight end. And then if they don't bring in Storm Miller at linebacker, I will riot. So
I think they will. There's one name because I don't follow, like I said, recruiting as much as you. Especially like I'll follow the next class. Like I'm following the 25 class, and then once that class is signed, then I'll move on to 26.
Yeah.
But there is a name in Ohio that I think is a 26. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Sincere Johnson.
Yeah.
I think you got to get him. He's from Glenville, kind of the Arvell Reese mold. Arvell is looking like he's going to be a promising player here. So that's the one who I want to see them get.
Well, let's have a look. Sincere Johnson. He does have an offer from Florida State right now. Let's see. Georgia Tech, Illinois. He has an offer from Ohio State.
They need to get him.
Yeah, interesting.
I love those kids from Glenville, man. I think if you're going to be Ohio State and you're going to try to be nationally relevant, you need some Glenville kids out there.
Yeah. So I'll pop this up so everybody can see what we're looking at. Yeah, I didn't intentionally leave him off my list. But 6'3", 225, Glenville, class of 26, 4-star, 247, 4-star composite, number 7 linebacker nationally, overall 6th player in Ohio. But his list, he has a pretty long list here, and I don't see anything like that he's even warm on right now. But he's got Illinois, Indiana, the usual suspects in Ohio, Missouri, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State. I don't see like Bama or anything like that right now, but mostly regional. This is pretty regional, except for the outliers here.
Yeah,
Texas A&M, UCLA. I guess it's not really that regional. West Virginia, Wisconsin. Yeah, so he's got some primetime schools. Absolutely looking at him. So throw him in there for me, man. Hey, we'll just cherry pick.
I mean, look, I don't know, like I said, a ton about recruiting, especially when you look out to the 26 class, but that's just one name who I've been kind of excited for him, especially after watching Arvell Reese, because I mean, it's kind of the same mold as Arvell, really the same school,
same size. Too,
I think that he's one of them guys that has the Ted Ginn stamp of approval, which that means something. You know, if you're Ohio State, that means something. So.
Yeah, either junior or senior. If you have that, you know, and I love that Glenville pipeline. You and I, Juck, all those guys, we're probably about that age group where we saw those guys coming in. Teddy Ginn, Troy Smith Jr., those folks, Cardale from Glenville, and you know we have fond memories of that. And I'm glad the Glenville pipeline is open again. But good call on Sincere Johnson. Yeah, he's no slouch, that's for sure. And I like to look at so I started looking at 26s midsummer, you know, and then there's some folks that they were saying, hey, like I want to see your tape this year. I want to see your junior tape. Let's see how you do. Because if you think about it, most of what we were seeing for 26s was sophomore tape. So gotcha. Well, I wanted to answer a fan question. Really, it was more than anything.
Oh, no.
So. Yeah,
I like that stuff, man. I just don't, like I said, when I'm in season form, I don't follow it too much, but I like to hear about it. I like to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's interesting, especially the Ohio kids, because I think Ohio is entering a territory right now where we haven't been in a while. I think that Ohio over the next, you know, starting last year or maybe even the year before that, but over the next like 5 or 6 years, I feel like Ohio has some crazy talent coming through the pipeline. And as Ohio State fans, we got to be ready because they do have a tendency sometimes to slow play these guys. And when you have a kid that's a national recruit, he's a national recruit. It doesn't matter that he's from Ohio.
Right.
Like it may help you in some instances, like Tavian St. Clair. You know, obviously he's a kid who is from Ohio, but he is a big time national recruit. But you still have to treat those kids like national recruits because then if not, you end up with like a McNutt situation. I know there's more to that story, but it's just in general, you know, just in general, you can end up with situations where kids are looking at other schools just as on the same playing field as they look at Ohio State.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I don't like that we slow play Ohio recruits. Now, if and I know you listen to our show, but I've said this for a while, this 26 class, 25 and 26 class are truly, really the 26 class, are truly the first group of Ohio kids that have had a full 4 years of development that we would have had prior to COVID. COVID wrecked the first year or two for that 24 class and this, you know, because they couldn't get together. They weren't lifting. There weren't season, you know, they weren't playing. There wasn't the regular schedule that you can get, and now you're seeing that talent pop back up in Ohio, and I truly believe that's part of the reason why, you know, whatever your beliefs on COVID were, the fact of the matter still remains that they weren't doing what they normally were doing. They weren't in the same regiment. They weren't in the weight room the same way. It was all different. And so now you're seeing that development come back around. All right, so Terry, I have something for you, man. I have something.
All right.
I want to show you. So on Saturday, we had the Wrigley Field, sir, and this is an outline of the field. This is how it looks for Saturday. I'd like to just get your firstly, are you at all excited about this? You know, playing at Wrigley, kind of, you know, the history of Wrigley, nostalgia, anything like that? Or are you concerned about player safety?
So I think it's cool for the players. Like, and if you listen to like the interviews and stuff from Ryan Day and the players, they seem like they're cool with it. They're excited with it. So I'm not going to feel sorry for someone when they don't feel sorry for themselves. So hopefully, I mean, obviously you don't want anybody to get injured. I'm sure that they'll take extensive measures to put padding and stuff on all those walls.
They did.
I know that doesn't matter because I mean, if you run into a wall, you're running into a wall. Like it's still you can get hurt, whatever. Ryan Day and the coaching staff just needs to keep it in mind. Like, don't call a freaking corner route to that corner right there where the point is right against the end. Like, obviously you could end up having
honestly is
some issues there.
Or here.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's not perfect. And a lot of people have talked about like the playing surface. I really think it's going to be all right, man. I think we just go in here, take care of business, get this game over with, man. Don't do anything stupid to get anybody hurt. Like, we don't need Jeremiah in that far left corner over there trying to make a one-handed catch falling into the stands. We don't need that. Like, just play it safe, do things the right way. And I think everything will be okay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Chuck and I talked on Tuesday, and then we talked again yesterday. And we both, I said, I think Ohio State could run the ball 150 times in this game and come out of there winning 35-6. And I would be completely fine with that if we didn't use the forward pass. I mean, they will, obviously, but I just, my thing, I put it in the notes, man, let's just come away injury free. Go take care of business. And I don't know if you caught the Sonny Styles interview, but he basically said he wants to get another shutout. So for Woody Wednesday, he was there and basically said, hey, you know, like, you know, we have some pretty good talent on this defense, and they feel like they're getting better each week. And I feel like too, and I want to get your thought on this. Do you think that some of this is just like now the linebackers are finally settling into their roles? It seems like they understand the defense. They have 7 or 8 games under their belt. And so that helps the secondary. And because the secondary is holding up on their end, not to mention they finally went to cover one, that there's nowhere for them to throw the ball. So now the defensive line's getting home. What's your take on defense? How are you feeling? Are you feeling better since the Oregon game?
Yeah, I'm actually really high on this defense right now, Chad. Like, I think that you can look at the defense schematically since right after the Oregon game. And even Jordan Hancock said it himself. I know you were talking about the interviews. He said, we got together after the Oregon game, was like, no, we need to fix this. Like, this needs to be taken care of right away. So, and for what it's worth, to me, ever since that game, this defense has been way more aggressive. The D-line, they've been, you know, I was big on the defensive line. I was not blaming the players, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I was not blaming the players. I felt like what they were asking them to do was putting them in positions where, like, they're not going to be out there making plays like you expect them to, especially getting after the quarterback. And I think that we've seen changes where you're seeing the linebackers blitz more. You're seeing more designs to, like, look back at the most recent game. There was a play where Sonny Styles came in and picked 2 linemen, and then Sawyer came off the edge not off the edge, but it was a twist. And Sawyer came through the middle free, and he missed the tackle. Luckily, Sonny was there to make it.
Right.
But again, just stuff like that. We were not doing that before. And I really think that with the athletes that we have on this defense, it didn't really make sense why we were not playing like that before. So I'm just really high on them right now, man. I think that, and they're rotating people, which is huge. Yep. I mean, Jack and JTT played, I think, their least amount of snaps probably that they played in 2 years in this past game against, I can't remember who played, Purdue.
Counts. Let me grab them.
Yeah, that's fine. And listen, if it's not accurate, then I know it's at least close to accurate. Like, they either played their least amount of snaps or close to their least amount of snaps they played. And if you look at what happened, Jack Sawyer was in on, I think, 1.5 sacks. JTT gets a strip sack. Jack Sawyer gets a touchdown. I get that it was the competition was not great, but those guys not playing every single rep made it where they every single time they were out there, they were giving it their best, and they were not tired. And I don't know. I'm just, again, you got me on a little rant here because I love this defense and I love what they're doing right now. So
yeah. So here's every game snap count wise. So Jack had, you're right, the fewest snaps since Western Michigan, 25. JTT had 25, so he had less against Western Michigan. But yeah, low. Like if you compare comparatively, 55, 58, 59, 64, Kenyatta Jackson had more snaps than Jack or JT Tuimoloau, Caden Curry. This does include snaps on special teams, though. Here, this does. Mitch Melton got in some. We saw him at the jack position, which we've been hearing about for years. I was glad to see Josh Mickens in there because I think he plays a role in the future on the edge as a backup for Curry and Kenyatta next year. Ty Hamilton, they did a nice job of keeping his snap count down, and I'm glad that they did not play Tyleek.
Let me tell you another thing, Chad, while you're looking at these. We're talking about Ty Hamilton playing less made me think about this, but I am super impressed by what I saw by Edric Houston on the inside. I think we got a player there, man, like a big time player in the future. And hopefully he can make some big time plays this year, just because it seems like they're willing to play him. But I do think that when you get into next year and the year after that, I mean, you're going to be looking at like one of the best defensive linemen in college football. Like that's what I expect from him now after watching him play this early and how well I've seen him play and just like the aggression that he plays with constantly.
Yeah. Well, give me Edric Houston and Cade McDonald lined up side by side in that middle, man, and I'll have a lot of fun, man.
Right.
Those two, like I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for 2 years about Cade McDonald, and everybody. I used to get people that would like kind of downplay it because they're like, "Well, why didn't Georgia take him? He's from Georgia. Why didn't Georgia take him? He's short. He's short." I'm like, you guys, I'm telling you, we stole one. We stole one from the state of Georgia in Cade McDonald. And like watching his high school film, just, give me more Cade McDonald, please. And we saw it in the Penn State game.
Yep, we did. And you know what? The thing with Cade McDonald is he's one of those guys that we need to get out there and get reps. But please don't make Cade McDonald like in someone who plays as many reps as like Ty Hamilton and Tyleek are playing at any point in the future, because that's not the type of player he is. Like he needs to keep his size because his size helps him.
Yeah.
And if he's going to keep his size, then he cannot be an every single down player. But you need to put him in there in good positions where he can go out there and make a play for you because he is a playmaker.
Yeah. I will never admit this to anybody ever that asks me about it again, but he's truly an SEC defensive tackle like that because his big size, like that's what he is. And we stole one, we got one, and I like it. I want to keep it, please.
I think that's what Edric is going to be too.
Yeah.
Like since you use the term now, I'll use it. Yeah. I think Edric is going to be an SEC defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And hey, man, I love that we have that at Ohio State.
So I know you're pretty well in the know, Terry. What do you think the odds are? So looking strictly at Northwestern, that we see Will Kazmarek this week before Indiana. Do you think?
I think he probably doesn't play this week.
Okay.
Especially because I feel like G and Jelani both have been playing pretty well over the last couple of weeks. And then you have Bennett Christian, who again, I mean, they showed early on in the season that they're comfortable with putting him out there, and I mean, I'm cool with it too. He hasn't really messed up too much, you know what I mean? He hasn't made it like any crazy plays, but also he seems more of like your blocking tight end that you're not going to see making, crazy plays downfield all the time. And I'm fine with that because I think Kazmarek is probably that too.
Yeah, I had told Dan one time because he was hyping up Bennett Christian. I'm like, dude, Bennett Christian is Luke Farrell. That's who Bennett Christian is. He's going to be your number 2 tight end. He's going to block really well. He's probably going to play in the NFL for 37 years, but joking. But that's who he reminds me of, Luke Farrell. That's who he reminds me of. So if you want to comp,
I like the comparison.
Yeah. So score predictions, Terry. Northwestern. Listening to Sonny Styles, he said that Purdue. He felt like they shouldn't even let Purdue get in the red zone. Credit to Devin Mockabee. and Ryan Walters for giving that kid a scholarship. I
Mm-hmm.
jokingly said he reminded me of Peyton Hillis during the game, but the dude runs violently, and he does remind me of Peyton Hillis. But he was their offense. Like Devin Mockabee
Yeah.
was their offense because they didn't have much else. Their tight end's decent, but I like that kid. I was like, man, if he was a Buckeye, I'd be all about it. So
Yeah.
predictions, score predictions. What are you looking for? Tell us,
Yeah.
Northwestern.
And to what you were just talking about too, I just think Ohio State didn't come out there ready to tackle a kid that was going to be running that hard.
He ran hard, man.
Because I mean, he was running hard. He was, listen, kudos to that kid. But I mean, getting on to this week, listen, I want to predict a shutout, but I'm not going to do it because I feel like that's kind of like jinxing it. So I'm not even going to do it. So I'm going to say Ohio State wins this game. I'm going to give them a little bit of extra points from last week. So I'm going to say we score 52 points this week, 52-3. It's going to be a whopping. I think this team is cooking right now on a level where we haven't seen them cook all year, and they need to put together a full game before they get into this last stretch of games, so they know they can do it. I think they do it this weekend. Chad, I made a prediction on another show that Will Howard was going to throw 3 deep ball touchdowns this week. So maybe I'm just delusional. I don't know. I mean, listen, to be fair, it's like a bold prediction, kind of, because I always predict the upset every week on one team, and I've been doing pretty well with it. But this week, I didn't really want to pick any upsets because I didn't see any, so I predicted that as like my
Okay.
upset, like my But what do you think, man?
So there's two things. Number one, they are 30-point favorites. So Vegas doesn't miss, man. They don't.
They're good. They're very good.
And so I like that line, but I wouldn't take the over. So I'm gonna go 31-9. I think Ryan Day calls off the Dogs eventually. I don't think they cover this week. I'm probably gonna get murdered for that, but I think they give up 3 field goals. I think they give up 3 field goals. I don't think they're going to give up a touchdown. I think the defense is going to play well enough. Where I'm at with this is Northwestern has like the 104th or 105th ranked offense, but their defense is right in the middle of the pack, 37th, I think. So I think they could slow us down. I don't think you're going to come away like we did when we had to play up at Northwestern in like 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and had to figure out, had to run CJ Stroud on several quarterback keepers to keep things moving. I don't think you have that. I think we have too much talent. The depth's too much, and I think they come away. Now, I would love it. Let me just tell you, Terry, if it was 50 something, because then I told Juck last week I needed to breathe. The Nebraska game, I couldn't breathe, and I just wanted to like be able to sit down with my popcorn and my son and watch a football game and not have to worry about it. And so when they got up 21-0, I was like, okay, I can breathe. I'm good. We're good. All good. So if we could do that, and they're throwing haymakers, and Will Howard throws 3 touchdowns of 40+ yards, hallelujah, man. I'll take every bit of that I can get. So you may be right. I just feel like, and this is that historian in me, I think, a little bit. Northwestern just seems to wonky things happen against Northwestern. Now the weather looks decent. We're not having 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We're playing at a baseball stadium, which is weird. I'm concerned about the turf. And so Ryan Day mentioned last night. Was it last night? Yeah, last night that they are going out. No, excuse me, Wednesday night. They're going out today to have the players get a chance to walk on the field, get a feel for it. Smart. They don't usually do that. Yeah. So that's why I always feel like there's always something with Northwestern. Like going back to the 90s when they had Darnell Autry, who nobody could seemingly ever stop. So that's my concern. Like if I have a concern, and what, but now that they have the offensive line figured out and Carson Hinsman's all part of it, kudos to that kid, by the way, for just sticking with it. I think they win going handily. I don't think Northwestern's much of a challenge. I just don't know how much Ryan Day is going to leave the starters in, because if I'm Ryan Day and I'm up, let's say 28-6 at halftime, and I come out and my starters play the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, we put a field goal or another or points up again, I'm pulling everybody for health. I'm pulling them.
Listen, I agree with you, but I don't think Ryan Day is going to do that though. I think that Ryan Day's pretty much showed us like that we're going to play the starters until the fourth quarter, and then after that we'll let the backups play. I don't know, maybe not, because usually what happens, right, is that we get up at halftime, we come out in the second half, and then there's always like it's like they change up, they don't be super aggressive with play calling, and you got the starters in there still. To me, that doesn't make no sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, don't, if you go out there and with your starters run your offense, try to put up as many points as you can. Mm-hmm. And when the backups come in, like if you want to change up play calling a little bit, like, okay, whatever. But I still wish they wouldn't. I wish they would let the backups go out there and actually run the offense and, you know, try to make plays, get those kids confidence built. So that way, when they do have to come in again, a big time game, you know, they have that confidence. Like, I've done this in front of fans. So.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that mentality. So Chuck and I kind of were texting about this, and Dan, about the series with Julian at the end of the Purdue game where he was throwing to a spot with like David Adolph. Great throws. It's just there was no separation. I would have rather let them. I'd rather them run that route with like Ennis or Mylan Graham or somebody that like, no offense, David Adolph, no offense whatsoever. Like, I'm not being mean, but I would like to have seen Julian like work with those guys a little bit. Just me personally, but you know, and so yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. I just like that. That's that part of me that knows we have to play Indiana. We have to win. We have to play our rival. And so throw out the records, and then hopefully a Big Ten championship game in the next 3.5 weeks. So if I can get my guys out, keep everybody from getting hurt, win the game, you know, why would I leave guys in when we're up 4 scores? It just doesn't make much sense to me. But you also, I understand Ryan Day. He did say that sometimes when you do that, they can creep back in the game. You don't want it to get, you know, like things to spiral. So,
if they do, then put your starters back in and score another touchdown and be done with the game. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen Urban do that before. I've seen Urban pull the starters out, and then the other team scored like a touchdown and then got a turnover, and he just put the starters back out there, and they just beat up on them real quick for two series, and then there was just a couple minutes left in the game. It was out of reach.
Yeah. All right, non-Buckeye thing, and we can wrap up with this, Terry. I wanted to get your take on this. Kansas at BYU this weekend, and it's Kansas plus 2.5. What does Vegas know that we don't know?
I think Vegas knows that BYU lost this past weekend, and the refs gave them the game. And BYU is not an amazing team. Is this at BYU or at Kansas?
It's at BYU, yeah.
I mean, okay, so even them knowing like what I just said, it still doesn't make sense. The line doesn't. But obviously there's something there. There's got to be something like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I should have picked that as my upset of the week.
Yeah. Kansas plus 2.5. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm tempted to do that. And I don't gamble at all, like ever. But that line is really interesting.
What do you know?
Yeah. What do they know that we don't know? Like, it's just like a couple weeks ago, it was like -3. And so that, like, there's something there for that. So I'm going to be paying a careful attention to that Kansas BYU game, because I'm just surely out of pure morbid curiosity. I want to know what the heck is going on.
No, for real.
Yeah, that one. And then I'd love to get your take on 2 other games, if we could, before we go. Tennessee at Georgia, and then Oregon at Wisconsin. So start with Tennessee at Georgia.
So I'm really struggling to see Georgia as bad as their record and what their play on the field shows, because of who they are. You know what I mean? Like, I'm struggling with it, to be honest. Like, Georgia to me is, they're supposed to be really good. They still have a lot of the players that are really good players that are future NFL players. But I think that if Nico plays in this game, I think that Tennessee can win it. I think that their defense can really give Georgia problems, because the offense has been struggling. Now, I do think that I do think that Georgia's defense is going to have some smoke for Tennessee's offense, though. You know what I mean? Like their defense could go out and win this game also.
Yeah.
If I had to pick this game right now, I think I would take Georgia to win. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I feel like Kirby Smart just kind of has that like that magic, like that juice when you get in a game, a big time game like this, where it's like at this point, if you lose, you're not making the playoffs. Like your season's over
Right.
if you lose. You're not making the SEC championship. None of that. So I think I would take Kirby Smart in a game like that over.
Okay. All right. I don't disagree with you. If Nico plays, I would say I would give Tennessee the edge. I heard this morning there's about a 75% chance that he will play. So if he plays, then absolutely, I'd roll with that. But yeah, you're right. Kirby, he comes from that Nick Saban. You know, Nick Saban just had a way to win. Would find ways to win big games. Man, he just did. All right, so I wanted to ask you about Oregon at Wisconsin. So Oregon's coming east. It's cold in Wisconsin. It's not fun. And Luke Fickell, for better or worse, like they play some smash mouth football. I like their running back a lot. They play sound fundamental defense. They're Iowa. They're just a better version of Iowa. Do you think they can give Oregon any kind of game at all? Or is this just going to be, they're just too fast and too much track speed? And even if they do try to slow the game down.
Man, this is such a tough one to say. Like I think that Oregon probably takes care of business in this game. I think that Dan Lane's got them cooking right now. I mean, I would love to see Luke Fickell put together a masterclass and make this a game. Like, I think that he has it in him. I think that this Wisconsin team has it in them, especially at home. Oregon without Tez Johnson. I mean, that's a huge part of their offense that's missing. But if I'm being, it's a night game, yeah. And I mean, obviously, it was at Camp Randall. It's going to be kind of lit down there.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to make it to the third quarter without it being a blowout, though, before that jump around matters. I don't know, man. I think Oregon's talent probably takes over and wins this game. I hate to say that because I want to see them get another challenging game before we play them, but it's probably not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I Camp Randall at night, it's cold. The wind sucks. I've been there. I don't think it's fun. I have too many bad memories. My dad and I were there when Terrell Pryor, with like 30 seconds to go in a game, broke that run and scored the touchdown. And it made it way less cold. But I hated jump around. It was so annoying. Anyways, that's a story for another day. I want to get one more. We'll do a bonus one today, Terry, just because everybody's talking about it. Utah at Colorado. Ken Wisenhunt, do you think, or not Ken Wisenhunt, I can't believe I just said that. Do you think Utah can give Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders fits with their style of player? Do they just not have enough gas this year?
I mean, they can absolutely give them fits. I don't think they're going to win because I do think that like Deion's messaging to the team this year and kind of what they got going on at Colorado, it is different than what it was last year.
Right.
Like I've seen less of them as the season has went on, which is kind of crazy because they're winning games. And usually that's the team that's like all over social media. Obviously, there's still your little clips that come out every now and then and stuff, but I don't know, man. I think that Colorado is going to take care of business against Utah. I do think that Utah is just not a very good team this year. I know they're going to be like well coached, all that good stuff. That kind of is like a Northwestern. You know what I mean? Like Northwestern is a team that can be pretty good. They're going to be well coached, but then they're going to have their years where it's like their down years. I think that's what this is for Utah this year. So.
Yep. I get you. I'm with you. I was just curious. It was one of those ones that I had kind of circled on my radar early in the year. Like that one could be really interesting depending on how things are going out west. But all right. Well, Terry, anything else on your mind? Anything you're looking for this weekend? And I can get you out of here, man.
No. I was just looking at the weather at Camp Randall.
Yeah.
For this game this weekend, and it looks like it's going to feel like it's in the in the 30s. So, and it says it's going to be a little windy. Now, if it was actually like some wind, maybe a little bit of rain, and if it was like in the 30s, That's going to slow down that Oregon team, dude. I
Yep.
know it is. Like, I mean, I think it does get cold in Oregon, though, right? Like,
It does. It
I
does. I
mean,
mean, so that if you think about the games that like Oregon has traditionally lost weirdly, it's when they would go to like Oregon State and it's rainy and
mm-hmm.
windy and cold and night and I
Yep.
was kind of thinking that exact same thing with Wisconsin. Rainy, cold, windy, night game. Don't really want to
Mm-hmm.
be there. Um
We're number one. We're
yeah.
ready to go play big time games.
Yeah.
Hey, and they got wait. Oh no, never mind. I was thinking they got Washington the week after, but they don't. Washington's the last game for
Last
them.
game. Yeah.
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 All right.
Cool. Well, Terry, thank you again for hopping
Mm-hmm.
on. If you guys were wondering yet, Dan's still conquering the world of houses in the VP world of land of things. So we're still working on our schedule. We're doing the best we can. But Terry is a good friend of the show. Appreciate him hopping on and giving us his take. So Terry, follow him at College Football Stop. Catch him on Best Damn Media,
Yeah.
and I know you're on with Mike sometimes too. But yeah, if you could give Terry a follow, he does a great job. I think he deserves his flowers for sure. And
My guy.
Terry, anything on your mind besides that?
No, just you were talking about me with Mike.
Yeah,
That's the Fans Edge every
I'm
Wednesday at
sorry.
7:30 Eastern Time. That's me and Mike's show. That's kind of our national show where we talk about things going on all around college football. There's obviously a little Ohio State spin on it because we're both Ohio State fans, so of course. But yeah, that's it for me, man. I appreciate you having me on, Chad. I always love it, brother.
Yeah, thank you again, you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Let's watch Ohio State get a victory. Stay safe. If you're going to Wrigley, enjoy it. Wrigley Field's a great place to catch a game. I've seen a Cubs game there, so it was fun. But enjoy yourself. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not, stay safe. And as always, go Bucks.